Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome into 104.3 The Fans Coffee Break. So I feel like it's been actually a minute since it's just been the two of us on a show.
I know I've been a little gritchy about that, but I don't want to air our laundry in public. But yeah, I love doing the show. I love doing coffee break. And then, I get a segment here, a segment there. I'm happy to be on no matter when, but I enjoy more because more coffee break is more fun.
Well, I appreciate that. We love having you on as always. But if you didn't know, you can also check out Cecil and Andrew Mason, Orange and Blue today. That's 3:30 every single weekday. They break down everything that you absolutely need to know about the Broncos. Lots of people chiming in the comments already. What's up, everybody? Happy to have you with us. So, Cecil, let's get into it. Obviously, the Broncos are on a bye week, so there's not a whole lot to talk about with the team, separating themselves from each other for a little bit. But let's go into the AFC West because it's kind of this perfect opportunity to see where's everybody falling? Because while it feels like the Broncos are the bottom, are the Raiders actually the bottom? I know the standings say so, but are they actually worse?
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about disappointing starts to a season. Things were supposed to be different with the Las Vegas Raiders, with Josh McDaniels in-house and with Derek Carr getting his college teammate Devontae Adams. But as I've said multiple times, sometimes getting back together with that ex isn't as the way that you planned. It's not going as swimmingly as they had hoped. And they'd had a little bit of a flash with Josh Jacobs, mainly in that Broncos game. And then he had a couple more 100-yard games after that. And that all went away. This team's not winning. McDaniels has already been losing his mind, behind the scenes. We know that about him. That's kind of just who he is. I don't think he's a good man, allegedly, or whatever I have to say, so I don't get in trouble. But, I think the Raiders are worse, and their expectations were as high. I mean, we're talking about a playoff team from a year ago.
Yeah. Who's more on the chopping block, Josh McDaniels or Nathaniel Hackett at the end of the year?
Nathaniel Hackett. One, Mark Davis doesn't have any money. And there's a joke running around. When I was at the Shrine game in Vegas in January, somebody said, hey, Mark Davis can't do anything without asking the bank first. So yeah, and in the financial situation that the Broncos are in, this is the great thing about having, an owner, and not only an owner, but the richest owner in all of sports, because they want to pay Hackett and get rid of him. They can. They won't even bat an eye. The Walton Penner Group will do that. So it is 1,000% Nathaniel Hackett. Could McDaniels get fired? Sure, I guess, if the bank lets Mark Davis do that. But this was Mark Davis's plan, and he hasn't had many good plans, probably because he doesn't get many good haircuts.
Well, we'll go to the top of the AFC West now, where a lot of people thought that the Chiefs were actually going to drop a little bit with losing Tyreek Hill, but that doesn't seem to be the case. They got weapons all over.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A few weeks ago, a month ago, we did No Mo FOMO. You might remember that on Fantasy 5. It was because there wasn't really a fear of missing out. They were kind of spreading it around. It was different guys every week. And then all of a sudden, it's everybody every week. It's like I always do the Mean Girls thing where it's like, stop trying to make fetch a thing. You know what I mean? Well, for me, it's always like, stop trying to make McCole Hardman a thing. But they've been making him a thing. He's been working out. Juju Smith-Schuster's been working out. Marcus Valdez-Scantling. They love their hyphens. Where's Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Oh, yeah, he's on the bench because of Isaiah Pacheco. I think I've hit all of our bingo cards so far. Where's the Senior Bowl one? But, they got multiple weapons that they just keep throwing at you, and they're all exploding, and they're all working. And, oh, yeah, by the way, last Thursday, they added Kadarius Toney, a former first-round pick, a very explosive player. Now, like Jerry Jeudy, his head's kind of out of the game, but when he gets his head in the game, then he can be very dangerous. So you just gave him another weapon.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Chiefs didn't need, but they went out there and got because, they got their eyes on Buffalo. They got their eyes on another Super Bowl.
That's my question. Why go out and get him is there any other weaknesses for this team that maybe would have been a better use of a trade?
They need a hammer, and it needs to be Pacheco. I'm not sure when that will change, but as we wake up to snow this morning here in the beautiful Mile High City, know that when those seasons change, the NFL season actually changes. Like you see it in the NBA as well, where in the NBA and come playoff time, it's a little bit more defense, right? A little bit better basketball, a little bit better games, a little bit more concentrated efforts. Well, in football, it's around the month of December, could be around now. But either way, the seasons change and the NFL changes and it becomes a grinded out, run heavy league. We're starting to separate now in week 9. Who's good, who's not good, who could maybe make a run. Like earlier in the season, even just a week or two ago, we're like, I don't know who's good. I mean, Philadelphia, sure, Kansas City, sure, but there's a bunch of other like, I don't know. Now we're learning of those I don't knows who are really good. And you're going to see an emphasis on running. If you're Kansas City, at some point, you need to go away from Patrick Mahomes, and you need to say like, okay, it must be a time to run the ball and then set up what you do with your passing attack. So I'm not going to say it's a weakness because they have the player on the roster. His name's Isaiah Pacheco, but will they flip the switch themselves, or will they try to be pass happy mode all the time and Pat Mahomes do everything all the time? And that doesn't work come postseason time. There are moments when you need to run the ball.
What you've seen out of both the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs this year, still the greatest playoff game I think I've ever seen. I know a lot of people agree with it. Who's winning the battle this year?
Yeah, it's Buffalo. It's Buffalo. And I hesitate to say that. My best friend's a Bills fan. And I think all of America will be Bills fans because they lost 4 Super Bowls in the 90s, man. 4 in a row. And like that's, I remember when the Broncos went to 3 out of 5, whatever, in the 80s and early 90s. And then people were just sick of seeing them. Like, I don't want to see the Broncos in the Super Bowl. And then they had to wait a while, and they finally got a couple back to back. Well, now it's Buffalo's turn. Hopefully they could do it. And they themselves went out, got Nyheim Hines at the trade deadline. I think that's an excellent move for that team.
Okay, so now we look to the Chargers, a team that we had really high expectations for, at least I did. And I feel like they haven't quite lived up to them, but they also haven't completely dropped to the bottom of the barrel like 2 other teams in the AFC West.
Right, but the Chargers choke. Like, that's why I was never really concerned. When I had higher hopes for the Broncos, and I was like, yeah, they could at least be number 2 in the AFC West. And hell, I'm not going to genuflect to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not going to bend the knee. So why not go for it all? Now you realize, oh my God, it's not as good as you thought here. But at least I knew this. The Chargers are going to choke. They just choke. That's what they do. They don't have that mentality of a winner. They don't know how to win. And they have a great young quarterback who they're going to have to pay, and that's going to kind of crush them in a way because that's going to take up so much salary cap space. But yeah, it seems like now Mike Williams is out. What does he have? Is that an ankle for Williams? You'd had Keenan Allen missing a bunch of time. I put this in my around the AFC West at denverfan.com. Like, yeah, it's you're throwing to Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter. They're not good, people. Okay, like that's we're not going to be talking about them in Fantasy 5 today. Let's just say that. You do have Austin Eckler, you do have Justin Herbert. You got some playmakers on defense who are, various levels of being banged up or healthy. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the mindset of a winner, you're not going to be a winner. You can win some games, you can make a run, but are you going to be there at the end? The answer with the Los Angeles Chargers is always no.
Okay. So I got a question not involving the AFC West, but because of Bradley Chubb heading to Miami, well, they had a really, really hot start. Then they kind of got a little cold. How do you anticipate the rest of their season going?
They're going for it. And I love that about the NFL today. I love the fact that if there's teams out there that feel like they have a window, because that's what football is, and football is life. And life will have windows of opportunity. You take advantage of those. You don't let them go by, because those windows, they're not going to be there forever. Whatever your window is and whatever industry that you're in, you have a window. So take advantage of it. The Miami Dolphins, an older mindset, and by older, I mean last year, the older mindset in the NFL was like, we build it ourselves and we chug through. And I actually think might have been 2 years ago. COVID screws with everything, the COVID season. But like there was a couple years ago when the NFL was like trade. And it decided like, hey, trades. Well, what? Draft picks? We can move these? Like, yeah. And they traded compensatory picks, which now you can do. You used to not be able to do that. But when that bug hit, it kind of lit a fire for teams that used to be close and like, well, we are building and we will be there in a year or two. No. If you're close, make a run. Go get you a Bradley Chubb. Go get you a Nyheim Hines. Go make those type of trades and make that splash move to put yourself over the top. So I love Mike McDaniel. I've known him since he was a teenager. I'm nothing but rooting for Miami, which is weird because, again, my best friend's a Bills fan, so I got a lot of love for Josh Allen and the Bills. But, man, it'd be fun to see Miami put together a run.
No, I'm with you. Does that mean you're calling a fib on George Payton saying if the Broncos were still possibly playoff contenders or if they were 5-3 that they would have still gotten rid of Bradley Chubb?
Actually, I think at that point he was being honest about it because
it's 50-50 between people.
You're not getting that first-round pick. I don't think Miami should have paid Bradley Chubb. That's just me. Honestly, there's an argument I could make. Chubb could have got more if he had waited. And then, pushed a little bit more for free agency. But I understand the securities and then, of course, his injury history and everything. But either way, someone's dangling a first rounder for Bradley Chubb, you do it. I don't care. If you were 7-1, that would be different. But you're not. You're not 5-3. I thought our friend Zach Stevens was a great question. And those are sometimes rare in Broncos media because we're all puppy dogs, like even me, like, tell us why you're so great. Like, no, ask a real flippant question. And that was a real question. It was a good question. And I thought George Payton was honest in that if they were 5-3, they still would have done the deal.
All right, well, let's look ahead to the Broncos' next 4 games because it feels like, especially at our station, some people are like, oh, next 4 could be, some easier games if we see the same Broncos team that we saw last Sunday. And then some people are like, no, these can still be some tough games. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the Titans first. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this Titans team and how do the Broncos align with them?
Well, it's Friday morning. Tell me the health status of Derrick Henry. Yeah. Now, on Wednesday, and I cover the entire league, I write about it every day, but on Wednesday, it was like, oh, he's limited. On Thursday, didn't practice. He's got a foot injury. Guess what he had last year? A foot injury. Guess what he's come off of? A 30-carry game for 200 yards, which is fine. Derrick Henry can do that, but it seems like Tennessee, you got to pick and choose where to do that. Like you've got to have other things, right? Like we're going to run him into the ground. You already did that. And he's already banged up. And now he did not practice on Thursday. It's Friday morning. Full disclosure when we're recording this, if you're not watching live, like, okay, I need to know his health status because the strength is Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. Now it's also Mike Vrabel as well. Vrabel in that mindset that a lot of coaches like Dan Campbell's like a wannabe Mike Vrabel. Vrabel certainly has the ear of his team. They want to run through a brick wall for him. They play solid defense. He rarely makes bad decisions as a coach. And then we have to know if Malik Willis is going to be out there at quarterback or Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill himself dealing with injury. I don't know if Tannehill is going to play this Sunday or if it's going to be Willis. That hasn't been announced yet. Again, Friday morning. So, and Tannehill's not a strength, but I'll tell you this, Malik Willis is a weakness. So I'm at the Senior Bowl. Dude's got a hose of an arm, like absolute cannon of arm. He's a very good young man. We all remember the scouting combine, where he was giving money out of his backpack to a homeless person there in Indy. So Malik Willis, fantastic man, but super, super raw, really raw. So if he's playing and there's no Derrick Henry, a little sneaky little W there, Denver. Sneaky little W.
Okay, so what if Henry is playing, but you still have Willis as QB? Are they just, the whole plan will just be run the ball and can this Broncos defense hold Derrick Henry?
Yeah, and they gave up, 200 yards to Jacksonville? So can they hold Derrick Henry? The answer is no. No. And Mike Vrabel outcoached Nathaniel Hackett. Almost everyone left on the schedule, even interim coach Steve Wilkes, will probably outcoach Nathaniel Hackett.
Oof. Okay. Sounds good. Well, we'll move on to the Raiders then. They come back to the Mile High City. Weaknesses and strengths of this struggling team as well.
I think Devontae Adams was more sick than they were letting on. Now, the NFL really cares about player health and safety. Wink, nod. No, they don't. But I think Adams had the flu. And he was trying to play through that, and the Raiders weren't exactly as forthright as they could be. I don't want to say too much, but you have to be in the NFL. It's because of gambling. And it always has been, even when gambling was illegal at Bushwood, sir. But no, the NFL, you have to be more upfront with injuries, illnesses, those type of things. The Raiders are like, huh? No, he's a little tummy ache or whatever. No, I think it was the flu. I think Adams was a little bit sicker than he was letting on. Hopefully he's healthier for his sake and, well, for the Raiders' strengths, it can be Josh Jacobs again. Josh Jacobs started that run, 144 yards, career high then. Then he had 154 the next week. Then he had 143 the following week. And then he had like 43 this last week. But either way, it's Jacobs there and Jacobs running the ball again. That will be their plan. How does Ojara Evero kind of counteract that? And Devontae Adams, Pat Surtain, that'll be a great battle. One we've seen and one I expect Surtain to win.
Okay, sounds good. So if you had to guess, would you say they come back to Mile High City and possibly get a W there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good. Perfect. That's what I like to hear. Okay, moving on to the Panthers, another 11 a.m. game. What's the strength and weaknesses of this struggling team? Because it feels like it's very roller coastery.
What's funny is they trade Chris McCaffrey and they play good football.
Yeah.
So and some people, and I can't say that I know Christian. Obviously, I know his dad, and my son played against Christian. Well, he didn't play. He was a freshman at the time, and Christian was a senior at Valor, and he just ran all over Chatfield. So Liam wasn't playing, but he did suit up for varsity and stand on the sidelines and watch Chris McCaffrey do his thing in Valor. But that's a special talent, special kid. And I've seen some people be like, well, was he the cancer? No, God, just please shut up. Okay. Christian McCaffrey was never a problem in Carolina. What you have now is a team that is kind of like circled the wagons. Like, you know, we're making these trades, making these moves. Didn't get rid of Brian Burns, even though they were offered 2 first-round picks. The Rams hate first-round picks, probably because their last one was Jared Goff. They have not had a first-round pick since they selected Jared Goff, number 1 overall. That will scar anyone. But either way, I think the Panthers have kind of circled the wagons, and Steve Wilkes is a good man. I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's a good head coach. He had the time with Arizona, and they kind of forced Josh Rosen on him, and that didn't work. So then they washed him out after a year, and Josh Rosen, first-round pick, after a year. Again, the NFL's a little bit new attitude, if you will, and that's not a bad thing, especially when it was Josh Rosen, smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. But like, you know, around Steve Wilkes, he's got the ear of that team. They play good defense. They can rush the passer. Deontay Foreman, we talked about the Foreman on Fantasy 5 a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Like, he's doing his thing, looking real good. And PJ Walker, who does work out here in Colorado at times. PJ Walker's, you know, a solid quarterback, but so much so doing such good work that Baker Mayfield is healthy, and he's the number 2. So
that was going to be my next question. If you had to guess, who do you anticipate playing them in 3 weeks?
Unless Walker falls on his face this weekend, it's going to be Walker. You know, in the following weeks. I know this game's a few weeks away, but like, if it trends the same way and they continue to play good football and they maybe grab some wins here, I mean, why not Walker? And why not see what PJ Baker's, you know, doing his backup thing? Like, he's happy and got the big mustache going. Like, okay, fine, Baker, go. And they're not even going to activate Sam Darnold. They have until next Tuesday to do it. And Darnold's like, I'm fine. And they're like, So I don't even think they do that. So yeah, it's probably going to be Walker as the starter.
Interesting. Lawrence points out in the comments, Broncos don't do well with early starting games. Does that game do either of the 2 11 o'clock games? The next one we also will get into, worry you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's not just the, 11 a.m. start. Again, it's the coaching. All right. Carolina's going to run the heck out of the ball. They don't have a great quarterback, but they have a decent quarterback. How do they get coached up in this one? And who's playing for whom? Who's playing for who? Whom is who? I can't remember whichever way. I'm a writer, not a talker. I guess I am a talker. I guess I'm both. But either way,
I'm a talker over a writer for sure.
Okay. But I hack the English language at times. I apologize. I used to stutter as a kid. Did you know that?
Me too.
Yeah. So it's like you get out of it, and then you just don't want to stop talking. So here we go.
Who is playing
for whom? Thank you, Clint. See?
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the Ravens. Probably the toughest game that this team is going to see in the next 4 weeks.
Yes.
Where's the Ravens' strengths? Because it feels like they got a lot of them.
Yeah, they do. They're not as strong defensively as they used to be, as they traditionally are. But again, they're so well coached. They're just not going to make the same mistakes. Nathaniel Hackett and Dwayne Stukes, I know, God bless Dwayne Stukes. I like him, but special teams is an abomination on this team. Just awful. It's not even bad. It's just awful. It's just continuing to be awful. I don't think it's worse than it used to be because it was awful before, and it hasn't gotten any better. Stukes is better to talk to than any of the random special teams coaches that we've had trotted through here over the last 5 years. But like, yeah, Stooks, you can be fired up. You can give D-Mac the evil eye because D loves it. He's like, whoa, every press conference he gives every evil. And so like I was catching him a little bit, like because normally I don't pay attention to special teams coaches. But anyway, like, oh, cool. And then you're around him and he's evil eye. Hey, I have Sauron is on you, Dwayne Stooks, because your unit is awful. So John Harbaugh, former special teams coach, he's got that team well coached up. And of course, Lamar Jackson, get on to Gus Bus as long as he's healthy because he's got a little bit of a hamstring thing. But, you know, they're going to run the heck out of the ball. They lost Rashad Bateman. I think it was a foot injury, top of my head. So, you know, Devin Duvernay, they're going to have Mark Andrews. They also have a tight end who I liked him around the same range of Greg Dulcich. So I can't say that I like Dulcich less or Isaiah Likely more. But they do have a weapon on Isaiah Likely. They have 2 tight ends to attack you with if they want to unleash Likely. And they might do that because, well, Mark Andrews has been banged up.
Okay, so if you had to guess, what's your record for the next 4 games for this Broncos team?
Let's just go 2-2. You know, I haven't really went ahead that much. I've looked at the next 3 and been like, oh, those are 3 winnable games. I don't think the Ravens game is winnable. But it depends on the bye adjustments. Are there adjustments? There's barely been second half adjustments. There was this last time out against Jacksonville, but there's barely been that. So I don't want to be presumptuous and assume too much because I already assumed the Broncos would win 12 games. I already assumed the Broncos, you know, Nathaniel Hackett, he'd have no problem fitting with Russell Wilson. So I've already made these assumptions. I already have the egg on my face. In fact, I just washed it off. I don't need more eggs on my face from Nathaniel Hackett, who I don't think is a very good head coach, and the Broncos need to fire at their leisure or as soon as possible, which is probably at the end of the year. I don't know if they do it. Seems like they won't do it. But yeah, firing Hackett, firing Butch Berry, firing Dwayne Stooks, like, yeah, the staff isn't good. So replace it. You've got some good players, get a better staff.
What's the number one thing that the Broncos need to change after the bye?
Oh, more Dulcich, more Hamler. So it's not 1. I'm going to make it 2, but it's not working with Cortland Sutton for whatever reason. And it might be one of those things. And we talked about it on Orange and Blue today. There are times you watch football and you're like, that doesn't look, is that really? No, what's going on? And it doesn't look right, but you don't hear anything. And I'm not saying the Broncos are doing what the Raiders did, because I wouldn't make that accusation. But, and I'm alleging the Raiders did that anyway, Rachel. There's so many things you don't want to get in trouble for. But it wouldn't surprise me if after the year, Cortland Sutton has a little scope. You know, oh, hey, he had to get his knee scoped, everybody, on January 6th or whatever. Like, yeah, I could see that where you're like, oh, he was hurt. Oh, there was a little something loose in there. Like, he just doesn't look right. Sutton's better than this. He's better. He's better than this. And the injury, and he's not the same. Like, he wasn't that type of guy that relied on those skills from that knee other than vertical, like jumping, you know, going up and getting those balls above the rim. Like, okay, I could see that. But like his effort as a blocker is not good. His results as a blocker are not good, just terrible. And Sutton is not a bad player. He's not this. This is not who you have in Cortland Sutton. So something's up. But until we get that clarity, Judy's working. Hamler's working. I want more of Hamler. Dulcich is working. Let's have those be featured more.
Okay, no, I agree with you. And a lot of people have talked about Cortland Sutton and separation, and we've talked about it too, that dog-like mentality. That's what you're missing from Tim Patrick. How much do those 2 things play into Cortland Sutton's play?
Yeah, because Hamler's the only dog you have. The only dog you have is KJ Hamler, and I love it. I love him slamming the helmet on the ground. Russ doesn't see him right, and watch Russ's feet. The design of that stupid Nathaniel Hackett play. Well, Russell's blind. He didn't see him. Watch his flipping feet. If his feet aren't turned, he can't go like this.
Yep.
I mean, he could. It'd look ridiculous, but that's not your hitches. It's your hitch. Yep. Your eyes follow your feet. Okay. So the hitch of your design of where you're supposed to step is how you're supposed to step through. So that's a Nathaniel Hackett problem. Another one.
Okay, well, Cecil, it's 10:55. You know what that means. Let's do it. Fantasy 5 at 10:55. Hit it.
High five. Who do you start? Who do you sit? Any sleepers? Here's Cecil Lammy with this week's 5 fantasy tips.
All right, Cecil. Number 1, kiss and makeup. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, Cam Akers. Are they really gonna kiss and make up with Cam Akers? Like, okay, I mean, I guess there were philosophical differences between Cam Akers and Sean McVay. And Sean McVay's almost retired, and Aaron Donald's almost retired. Like, the Rams are just teetering on it, man. They got the ring. Okay, congrats. Woo. But like now, because the trade deadline came and passed and they didn't trade for Melvin Gordon, they didn't trade away Cam Akers. Now the reports are like, hey, we'll figure out a way. Like, yeah, because you now have egg on you. Lots of eggs this morning. You have egg on your face now if you're the Los Angeles Rams because, wow, that didn't work. So, yeah, will they kiss and make up? Will Akers become a fantasy factor again? Flex play. He's working with Darrell Henderson. That's what they'll do. They do get Kyron Williams, the kid from Notre Dame that I like, who I would have taken in the 5th round. It's that guy's there. He's coming back off IR. Just watch that running back situation. But they might kiss and make up with Cam Akers, and he's out there on almost all waiver wires because he wasn't playing because the Rams told him to go home.
Okay, sounds good. Number 2, Dynasty Stash. Hit me.
Yeah, Dynasty Stash for Calvin Ridley. He's not playing because the NFL really cares. Oh, God, don't get me started on corporations. I feel like Jake and I could sit around with a cup of espresso and talk about the evil of corporations. But either way, that's a Jake and me thing, and that's a different show. Rachel, you're always welcome. But either way, like it's Calvin Ridley suspended for the year for betting like $1,500 on a game. Yep. Okay. Oh, the NFL. Oh my God. They're in bed with every casino under the sun. And then one of their players and 1,500 is a lot of money to, normal people. Yep. NFL players, that's like 15 cents. Okay, like, hey, something, hey, or whatever. Fantasy football is gambling. I mean, just throw it out there. I mean, it's legal or whatever, but like, let's not dance around what adults are doing. And Calvin Ridley got popped for a year. He gets traded from Atlanta to Jacksonville, so it's a dynasty stash. I really love that. He's the alpha that Jacksonville needs. So dynasty stash.
Yeah, don't get me started on the Deshaun Watson stuff with him too. So, okay, moving on. Breaking down what? Yeah,
breaking down Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. That's get your Dontrell Hilliard summer stock ready because I mean that once the injury seal is broken, it's like James Conner, right? Mm-hmm. When James Conner was banged up in week 2, I was like, well, there you go. That's it for him. And I love James Conner. Dude beat cancer. Like, we all should be James Conner fans. Love Derrick Henry. Love the king, right? Because I'm old school. I run the ball, play great defense, take an opponent's will and sap them. And then, well, guess what? Derrick Henry gets banged up. So, yeah, he's breaking down. Make sure you know who his backup is, and it's Dontrell Hilliard.
All right, number 4, thumbs down. This one might be questioning.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, thumbs down. Thumbs down for a lot of stuff with Aaron Rodgers. What a big jerk. But yeah, no, and trust me, I wanted Aaron Rodgers here. No doubt. 1,000%. When I want Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, I'd want Aaron Rodgers. But he's got a thumb injury, and he's playing through it, and he's complaining through it, and he's not playing well through it, and the Packers look awful through it, and they're not running the ball. So with Rodgers, you have one last effort here against the Lions. If he doesn't look good against the Lions, you can let him go. But this is the first week that I can remember since Aaron Rodgers has been starting, Rachel. I haven't had him as a QB1. He's a QB2 because of that thumb.
Oh my goodness, it's so crazy. It's the new NFL. It's weird to see all these big names that we all know and love just not playing as well. All right, last one, Cecil. Here we go. More than likely.
More than likely, I'm the one you're living for. Sorry, I just break out some Boy George there. It was actually on a song with PM Dawn called More Than Likely. And I love that song. And I love Isaiah Likely. I loved him in college. He was one of those players that the Broncos not taking Greg Dulcich. And I think I might have even during the draft broadcast been like, you could take 2. You do need 2. You need more than 1 tight end. Isaiah Likely now gets an opportunity with Baltimore because of the injury to Mark Andrews. So, like, I love it. I love his skill set. He's a receiving weapon. He's big. He's huge. He is a good blocker, and he fits exactly what Baltimore wants to do. You need a tight end 1. So long as Mark Andrews doesn't play, Isaiah Likely is that guy.
All right. I love it. Cecil, as always, love having you on Coffee Break. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning.
Peace.
All right. Cecil's Fantasy 5 at 10:55 presented by Hooters. Let's go. Jake Shapiro jumping in with me now. Jake, how are you? Oh, we're still on Cecil Fantasy 5.
I'm good, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for our next guest. Tell us who will be joining us here on Coffee Break very shortly.
Well, he's in the back end right now. We've got Tad Boyle, head coach of CU men's basketball. Obviously, one of my favorite teams. I've got the Buffs logo right over my shoulder. I've known Tad for a while, and it's going to be an exciting year up in Boulder. So I'm interested to see what he's lining up for us starting on Monday when their home opener is.
All right, Jake. Well, have a wonderful interview. I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about this Buffs basketball team. Let's do it.
Cool. And I welcome in Tad Boyle. Tad, up in Boulder right now. How's everything looking so far this season? What are you excited about heading into Monday's opener?
Yeah, Jake, it's an exciting time of year as a basketball coach and certainly as a basketball player at the collegiate level. NBA is obviously off and running. It's a great time of year to be a sports fan, right? You got the World Series, you got NFL football, college football, and now college basketball is coming on board. So we're excited. I can't wait for Monday night. I know as a head coach, you wish you had another 10 practices, but our players are ready. We got some really talented guys this year that are going to be stepping up into new roles, and we got a lot of new faces as well. So it's going to be a team much like last year's, Jake, in that I think, early we may be finding ourselves a little bit, but as the season goes on, you're going to see a lot of improvement, a lot of growth, and that's the fun thing about following college basketball.
Yeah, last year you had a very young team, but it was also very fun to watch both the struggles and the successes because you saw them grow night in, night out. So you're talking about them maybe being similar. What are some of the additions you see, and where are the guys growing that we didn't see this offseason?
Yeah, I think, last year we were young and inexperienced. This year we're young and experienced. We've got guys like Tristan Da Silva, who's a junior now, who's been 2 years in the program, Nick Clifford and Luke O'Brien, two Colorado kids that have really grown up, didn't play much as freshmen, played a little bit last year. All three of those guys are going to play major roles for us this year. And then you got Lawson Lovering, who played a little bit last year, big guy from Cheyenne, who's made unbelievable strides in the offseason. Huge improvement. And then a lot of new faces. Javon Ruffin is a guy that redshirted last year. He's coming along. And then we added 2 grad transfers from the Ivy League, Jake. I usually don't try to recruit guys who are smarter than me, but I made an exception here this year with those 2 guys. But Ethan Wright from Princeton, Jalen Gabadon from Yale, 2 winning programs, well-coached guys that are really going to help us, help our culture, help our experience, even though they're first-year guys. And then Javon Hadley is a JUCO kid from Indian Hills that is a terrific player. So, and I didn't even mention Julian Hammond and KJ Simpson in the backcourt. So we're going to be deep. We're going to be talented, but we're still young.
One of the guys that you just pointed at who is still young but gets more and more experience, Nick Clifford. He's such an interesting player because you look at him at times and you're like, holy cow, I can't believe what I just saw on the basketball court. But it's about consistency, as we know with Nick. 3A kid coming out of Colorado Springs has made some massive strides at the collegiate level. Where is he right now, and what do you kind of expect to see from him this year?
Yeah, I mean, Nick's had a great offseason. His body continues to get bigger and stronger. He was awful thin coming out of high school. We knew it was going to be a process with him. You mentioned he went to Vanguard, a small 3A school in Colorado Springs. So big jump, into Division I basketball for him. But he's made great strides. And you mentioned consistency. Nick can be a scorer from all 3 levels from us. He can make threes. He can put the ball on the floor and pull up. He can get to the rim. So what we need from Nick is a guy that is consistently giving us, production. It doesn't have to be scoring 20 points a night, but last year he got his chance when Eli Parquet got hurt and went down, and Nick kind of became a defensive stopper for us. We still need him on the defensive end as well because he's a big guard that's long and athletic, and need a breakout year from Nick. He's he's an X factor, what I call. Like, if he has a great year, Colorado basketball is going to be really good.
And Nick, not only defensively and offensively, but I know he's big for hitting the boards and hitting the glass. You lose Jabari Walker to the draft, which is a great thing. And, shout out to Jabari in Portland with Chauncey right now. But you're trying to make up for some size differences and some losses of size. You have Lawson coming back off the injury. Tristan DeSilva has been a very solid player for you, but you don't necessarily have those big rebounding guys that you've had over the tenure, and it's such a core to you as a head coach.
Yeah, and Jake, I don't know if we're going to have the leading rebounder in the Pac-12 this year like we did last year with Jabari, but I do think we can be a really good rebounding team. We've had a couple scrimmages leading up to this opener on Monday, and we've done really well on the boards. Luke O'Brien is probably our best rebounder right now on the offensive glass. Lawson cleans up a lot of things defensively. He's 7 foot. He's at the rim a lot. And he's really been a great defensive rebounder for us. So, but we need guys like Tristan DeSilva and Nick Clifford. We need rebounding needs to be a by committee thing with this team. And I hope somebody emerges as the leading rebounder in the Pac-12. But I think everybody's going to have to up their game a little bit. Even our guards. I mentioned Javon Ruffin. He can be a really good rebounding guard. Ethan Wright from Princeton averaged almost 7 rebounds a game in the Ivy League. He's going to be going against bigger, talented, athletic guys in the Pac-12, but he's a good rebounding guard.
You mentioned you don't recruit necessarily Ivy League guys, but famously one of your best recruits or best players ever almost went to an Ivy League school, and Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer, Derek, Alec Burks, McKinley Wright, you've had so many good guards at the University of Colorado. One, I want to ask you kind of what goes into the development of those guards, because you've had a couple that haven't made the NBA that have been really solid for you, like Askia Booker as well. And 2, can KJ Simpson kind of elevate his game to be one of those next guards on, the same plateau as those guys?
Absolutely, he can. The one guy that KJ gets compared to is McKinley, right, because of his size. You mentioned Derek, you mentioned Spencer, you mentioned Alec. All those guys are bigger guards. Even Corey Higgins, who's one of the top EuroLeague players in the world right now, who played for us, 12 years ago. They were bigger guards. KJ's a smaller guard, and he's got an unbelievable explosiveness, though, in terms of his speed in the open floor, his ability to get downhill and ball screens. The biggest thing with KJ is freshman year, he showed flashes of brilliance, and now he needs to be an everyday guy, an every game guy, where we're counting on him to be a great decision maker. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, but he needs to be a great decision maker, and distribute as well as score for us.
Tad, you've been doing this, I think, 12, 13 years now, a long time in Boulder. I remember the day you were hired. I don't know just about as well as you do, because it was your dream job, but it was a great day. I remember it well. What do you still enjoy about coaching and being around in Boulder and being in this community, so long into this now?
Well, I love the university. It's a great academic institution. I mean, we do so much. I was reading an article, the other day about the economic impact that the University of Colorado has on the whole state of Colorado's economy. To be a part of that, to be a part of a Pac-12 program where you get to come to work every day and you see the Flatirons. We've got unbelievable facilities. We've recruited tremendous young men that I get a chance to work with on a daily basis. So I'm blessed. I'm as blessed today as I was 12 years ago when I got this job. And, you hear, Jake, you've heard your fair share of, coaches opening press conferences, and you hear dream job a lot. But I think I'm one of the few guys that actually meant it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do want to ask you, just tacking on, I know it's sequencing it a little bit weird, but I want to tack on, what are some of the changes you've seen in college basketball since, your freshman year in Kansas in the 80s to now that you've actually enjoyed? Because I actually heard a little birdie told me you were talking NIL the other day behind the scenes at Colorado, and you're talking about the benefits of that for some of your players. And I know there have been way more changes as well.
Yeah, if you want me to go back to my days at Kansas, holy cow! There was no 3-point line, no shot clock then, Jake. So that's how old I am. But there's been great changes into our game. I mentioned the 3-point line and shot clock; those were great changes. But now here recently, I think when you have the transfer portal, which transfers have always been a part of major college basketball and even major college football. But with the immediate eligibility of those transfers in conjunction with NIL, you put those two things together and you've got an unbelievable change in the marketplace, and people are trying to figure out what are the rules, what's going to be enforced, what's not, what's okay to do, what's not. And we're still figuring that out. And I do think in the end, it's a good thing for men's basketball players. I think, look, we generate $1 billion a year for the NCAA with the TV contract. That's a lot of money. And I think so players being able to share in revenue that they create. I am not in favor of paying kids to come play at Colorado. I'm really not. That's not what NIL was intended to do. What NIL was intended to do is when they choose the school they go to, and they go to that school and they make a name for themselves and they can profit off that name and their image and their likeness, they should be able to do that. So that's what we're concentrating on at Colorado is once our kids get here, we're not using NIL to get them here, but once they get here, how can they best leverage, that to make it a great situation for each and every one of them? And every kid's in a different situation. So something that's going to continue to evolve. There's no doubt.
I know that worked out well for Evan Batty last year. And just want to talk about Monday, you've got your home opener. And then a couple days later, you guys are out in Tennessee. So I want to tell fans, people interested in college basketball, tune into your guys' games coming up here. Maybe come out to Boulder. It's a great atmosphere, as you've talked about for years, and you've made a great atmosphere up there. So I want to thank you for joining the show, Tad, and I'll certainly be seeing you up in Boulder soon.
Thanks, Jake. And our fans make it a great atmosphere. So we need people from Denver to drive up and see this team. They're going to be worth the price of admission, I promise you.
Thanks a ton, Tad.
Okay.
Welcome back, Rachel. You're muted.
Muted. I always mute myself. I obviously went to CSU, but I have to say you did an extremely great job on that interview. The longer you're in this media space, the more you realize that you are fans of good people. And that interview just really proved that CU up there, they've got some really good people in charge. So fantastic job, Jake.
Yeah, I went to high school with Tad's kids. I've known Tad, like I said, I've known Tad for 15 years almost. And my dad actually was at Kansas when Tad was at Kansas. So it's funny because like I said, I remember the day he was hired. I grabbed the Daily Camera, the paper up in Boulder, and I was like, who's this Tad Boyle guy who's coaching in Northern Colorado? My dad's like, that was the captain of the basketball team when I was at Kansas. And of course, people that are older than me will go, yeah, Tad Boyle is one of the best high school players in the state of Colorado. So he really cares about this community. It's been evident the entire time he's been here. And, could they maybe get a coach that has more success in a single year or does better in a single game or an in-game situation? Maybe. I'm not sure. But I can tell you no one's going to care about the school and the community as much as Tad Boyle does and be there as consistently and reliably as him. I mean, just look at the football program in Boulder and the amount of turnover we've had up there at the same time Tad's been the basketball coach with the same support going on in the athletic department. So it speaks volumes to what he's done with that basketball program.
Absolutely. And I really like his stance on the NIL. He's saying, I don't want to pay kids to come to Colorado. Like, NIL is a totally different thing. And I think sometimes people don't quite understand that when they start to see the dollar sign. So I do like that. We're both going to go to the CU-CSU game in Boulder. I think it would be fun if a bunch of other people decided to come and, we could make like a little coffee break hangout before we can all say hello to each other. That game is, I believe, December 8th. So
Thursday
I think
night.
it's going to be really good. Obviously CSU, my alma mater, they are looking really good too. They made it to the dance last year, even though they lost terribly, but it's totally fine. We deal with it. We're used to that in Colorado sports, but I think it would be fun, Jake.
Yeah. And it's going to be fun because it's the first time CU and CSU have matched up since before the pandemic.
Yep.
There have been a bunch of scheduling issues with the entire team, with both teams. I mean, that's what happens when there's a pandemic.
Yep.
And a lot of CSU fans have accused CU of dodging CSU. So there's going to be, obviously there's heat to the rivalry, but there's going to be some more heat to it. It's going to be a lot of, if not almost every single player's on the floor's first CSU-CU game. So that'll be a really fun night in Boulder. I know I'm going to show Rachel some of the bars in Boulder, maybe before the game that she doesn't know about. So it's all about, hey, this is my hometown. I got to show you my culture up there in Boulder.
Oh my gosh, that next Friday morning coffee break might be a little rough. And the real McCoy saying, go Rams. I agree. Go Rams. And happy Friday, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with Jake, myself, Cecil, Tad Boyle up at CU. Such a fun week. Broncos off this week.
Wait.
Oh,
What are you doing this weekend? It's the bye week. It's the weekend. You're hanging out. What are we doing, Rachel?
I am going actually snowboarding tomorrow. It's like one of the only weekends I can go. So we're going to go. I don't know how well the snow is going to be or the slopes are going to look, but we're going to go and we're just going to pray there's not too much ice and we don't get hurt by any means. But I have like 3 inches out my window. So I'm hoping the mountains have some nice snow up there. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going down to San Antonio. I'm going to see a concert on Saturday night. And on Monday, I'm going to see the Nuggets Spurs game. So live from San Antonio, coffee break on Monday. We'll see you then.
I know. I'm actually really looking forward to that. I'm also jealous that you're going to some warmer weather. I'm already missing that summer weather. But of course, we hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Make sure you enjoy your free weekend with no Broncos, but check out all the NFL games. We've got Nuggets too. Well, we got Avs here and coming up in like 45 minutes. And then Nuggets play this weekend, or is it just Monday?
They play on Saturday at home against the Spurs. Then they're Monday on the road against the Spurs.
Right. So still lots of stuff to keep up with. Make sure you check out denverfan.com, all of our social media channels as well. And everyone have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you Monday morning. Bye.